It's our favorite time of each week. It is the final countdown, the full rankings list for all of your favorite ACC football teams. It has been quite the season, but we have ended it on a high note. We're ready to tell you guys just where your favorites landed when it was all said and done. Let's talk about it with AJ Black on today's show.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's edition of Locked On ACC. I'm your host, Candace Cooper, joined by AJ Black from Locked On Boston College. Each and every week, you can find us every day, really, on your various YouTube channels and wherever you listen to podcasts. We talk about ACC football for the past, and now we're moving on to the ACC basketball future. But all in all, we have to take some time to recap and give a full rundown of our entire ACC football list. AJ, how are you feeling?
I'm doing great, Candace. It's good to talk to you and finally put a bow on this ACC season before bowl season starts.
Yeah, 100%. It has been quite the doozy. But more than that, I want to take time to mention to you guys that LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. So we're rocking and rolling. Do you want to start top to bottom? I think we should start with the bottom and go work our way up. But, tell me how we're feeling. Okay, cool. Bottom first. So who was the team in the ACC that struggled the most and ended up being the one where we just, we wish you could have the season back?
All right. I'm going to put Virginia Tech at the bottom. I know they beat Boston College, but that was like the highlight of their season. They didn't you expected Brent Pry, I almost called him Brent Key, to have a bit of a rebound, or rebuild here in Blacksburg, but I didn't think it was going to be as rough as it was. Tough year, and they're a team right now that's getting eviscerated by the transfer portal. I think they're one of the top 2 or 3 teams I noticed, and number 2 or 3 right next to them is a team we'll talk about way later, which is really surprising. But I think in terms of disappointments, I think the Hokies take the bottom spot.
1,000%. I think with what we know Virginia Tech football to be, and even when you're watching, Shane Beamer out in South Carolina, you talk about Beamer ball and all the things, you're like, I know what good football should look like, and it's certainly not happening in Blacksburg. But, there is an opportunity. We're going to give him, at least a couple years to get rid of that Fuente funk and then hopefully figure out how to move forward. So I feel it there. All right, next team.
All right. I'm doing this out of I'm not doing this just to run down the standings and do it. I'm looking at how disappointing a season was for a team, how much did it drop off. And so my second from the bottom, and I already see the comment section blowing up, is going to be the Miami Hurricanes.
They deservedly so. They're right there with Virginia Tech in a horrible transfer portal.
I mean, this is a program that bought all the best coaches that money could buy at every position that they could think of. They had a quarterback that should have been one of the best in the ACC. They had talent from the transfer portal, and they did nothing.
Yeah,
they looked exactly like the Miami teams that we've seen for the last 10 years, and were a massive disappointment. I mean, I put Virginia Tech at the bottom, but I could put Miami down there because how many people talked about the Hurricanes possibly winning the ACC Coastal, and they're not even bowl eligible.
Yeah, not even bowl eligible, but more than that, it's just they didn't even look competitive in a lot of games. And the one time they actually had an opportunity against Texas A&M, they pissed it away, and you're just sitting there saying to yourself, that is kind of on brand for how the program and really the whole university and the athletic department is rolling right now when it comes to football. And I just think something's got to give because there's too much talent. There's too much talent from an administrative, standpoint in terms of coaching, and there's too much talent on the field for it to really be this bad. So I'm hoping that Mario can shake that thing a lot quicker than people might give him credit for. Because if he doesn't figure it out in year 2 or 3, they're definitely going to be, scratching their head and wondering what did we just get ourselves into.
Well, I think they could just have a shopping list with their NIL money and just go to the transfer portal and buy whoever they want. So I mean, they're going to be one of those teams that's going to do that. There's all these players that are out there that are looking for a bag, and Miami's going to be one of those teams that's going to have the biggest bag out there for them. And I don't hate the player, hate the game. And I think that's what's going to happen this offseason is that Miami's going to go crazy, buy in players to try to fix this thing.
And, you buy players and all the good things, but can you bring them together and have some cohesion, right?
Yep.
I think that's going to be the biggest question. Like, sure as all day long, you can bring a lot of superstars together. Look at the Lakers, and can they all gel and actually do well? Besides Anthony Davis is actually doing well right now and end up making playoffs and doing all the things. So, it's just one of those situations where money is nice, but I mean, I'm sure the reason why you actually get up to do all the things is to play and to win, championships and all that kind of good stuff. So totally hear you there. All right, next up.
I'm going to put Virginia, and I don't even want to get down on them because of everything that happened at the end of this year. So I'm just going to say tough year, very, very tough year. And obviously there were things that were bigger than football that happened in this program. So
absolutely,
of any team that we'll be rooting for 2023 to figure things out, it'll be the Cavaliers.
Absolutely. I think they have a lot to look forward to in terms of just where they could turn the program around. I hate that Brennan Armstrong is not going to be there, but I also wish him the best because I think he has an opportunity to go do big things, and he could be one of these quarterbacks that ends up transferring and kind of lighting it up. So I definitely think there's a lot of growth opportunity for them for sure. Who we got next?
All right. I'm the host of Locked On BC, and I'm going to put my Boston College Eagles down there.
Okay. Not the bottom, but still pretty low.
It's low. In terms of disappointing season, this is a big one for BC. Heading into this year, you had one more year as Zay Flowers. You had Phil Dracovic. You were running around, and you go out there and you lose to Rutgers, UConn. You lose to a bad Virginia Tech team and weren't competitive in many other games. As I said on multiple shows of mine, the glow of Jeff Hafley is starting to wear off, and the questions of whether he's the right fit for Boston College is pep up. I don't know what they're going to be doing in the transfer portal to try to fix this thing because they need an offensive line badly, or this is just going to happen again next year.
I wonder how essential that offensive or the transfer portal and utilize the transfer portal will be, because I know they didn't really dip their toe last season, but is it one of those situations where Jeff's like, listen, either you let me get some guys or you kind of have to deal with what you get here?
I mean, the biggest issue that he has is that he lives in recruiting, and he's got, I don't want to call it a bloated roster, but his roster is so packed with scholarships right now that he can't go out and get guys in the transfer portal. So that's a big issue right now. So when I see that BC's only had 4 guys enter the portal, Phil Dracovic being one of them, and they have an incoming class of 17, the numbers don't add up very much for me. So I don't know what they're going to do. I'm very worried if they're going to just go in with, we're going to bring in more true freshmen. They're going to get screwed, and Hafley's not going to make it to the end of next year.
That's fair. And of course, you mentioned Phil Dracovic, who is going to ACC rival the Pittsburgh Panthers, deciding he is going to be their QB1 after, Keaton Slovis decided to enter transfer portal yet again. It might be you, bro. I'm just going to say, how are you feeling about Phil leaving? Do you feel like it was time, or without having a good offensive line, there was nothing more that he could do?
I mean, this is the perfect fit for him. He got a lot of crap from BC fans this year. Some of it's deserved because there were times that he just couldn't see things in the field, and he did that for 3 years where he just had moments. But the poor guy, I feel for him because how easy is it to go back there every time you drop back knowing you're going to get hit by 1 or 2 pound guys running full steam at you that you can't see because the guys in front of you can't do their job. So on that sense, I'm happy for him because I think Pitt's going to be a good fit. He already worked with Frank Cignetti, their offensive coordinator. He's from Pittsburgh. So he's going home and he gets a fresh start. He wasn't going to play for BC next year. Hafley always does his thing. We got to go to the next guy, he goes down the depth chart. Emmett Moorhead's going to be their quarterback next year, unless they have some big splash in the transfer portal, which I doubt will happen. It's going to be him. It's his turn. So I think Dracovic, Hafley was like, okay, why don't you go try to see what you can find, and we'll support you. And he let him move on.
Yeah, 100%. And, at the end of the day, I wish guys nothing but the best if you find a happy home, and maybe it works out good for you. So there's that. All right, next up, who do we got?
All right, after that, I'm going with Wake Forest here. The Demon Deacons.
It's crazy the trajectory of what we thought they would be and how they fell from that so mightily this season.
I thought at the beginning of this year, if I went back and listened to what I said, that I thought that teams would figure out Wake Forest's offense, and then they didn't for the whole first half of the season. They looked like Wake from last year. Then they figured them out and made Sam Hartman look very mortal. Their defense, which has always been suspect, all of a sudden looked very suspect. And Wake finished at 7-5, which is very disappointing compared to what they were, the way they were their trajectory was heading at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I just think the errors that they were making is just so not like Wake Forest. Like the interceptions, the turnovers. It just was like, this is the sound team. This is the perfect team. They are very strict. They make you mess up and capitalize on your mistakes. And yet it seemed like Wake Forest was just on the other end of that stick, and it was just unbearable at times for them.
Yep, absolutely. Totally agree with you, Candace.
100%. All right, guys, let's talk about a few more of these teams as we roll through the final rankings for ACC football. But first, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for all your small businesses. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. All you have to do is go to LinkedIn.com. And I'm telling you, go to your profile, add your job, and purple #hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster and for free. Post your job at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions do apply. We're rocking and rolling with AJ Black of Locked On Boston College, talking through some of our ACC football rankings, the final power rankings of the year for the 2022 season. And we have mentioned a couple of the bottom tier programs, but we're moving our way up. And so who do we have next after Wake Forest?
I'm going to put Georgia Tech. And, in terms of expectations, I almost wanted to put them higher. But when you're not bowl eligible, you got to get near the bottom of this, because when I looked at their schedule at the beginning of last year, I was like, oh my gosh, Georgia Tech is running into a buzzsaw. Then they fired Jeff Collins. And I was like, okay, this season's going to go down the toilet real fast. And then they put their interim wins 2 top 25 games. They finished 5-7. And I mean, they had no chance of beating Georgia, but they were on the verge of
But they didn't get killed.
Yeah, they were right there for pieces of it. And that's great. Yeah, and that shows you. And I saw Brent Keys was doing he was taunting Georgia fans at the Georgia Tech Georgia basketball game today.
Yeah.
That's definitely not going to bite him in the butt the next couple of years.
He's all in when it comes to being a Georgia Tech alum and also just wanting to really rebuild that program. So I get it. And as someone who had to watch Georgia Tech beat North Carolina, I think that it said more about North Carolina than Georgia Tech. But all in all, you win the games that sometimes people don't expect you to win, but you also just show some promise. And I think that's what the Yellow Jackets have here with Key. And I think it's going to be a very interesting season going into next year, because the ramifications of Collins is gone, Jeff Sims is gone. It felt like that relationship between Key and Sims was off always, or whether or not he was playing or not. And so now you get, a new quarterback, a new regime, and all the good things that come with it. All right, who we got next?
All right, I'm going to go with Syracuse next.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah, so they start the season off with a 6-0, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
And they were on the verge of beating Clemson, and just like BC in 2020, they just couldn't finish them off, and Clemson comes back and beats them.
Yeah.
That's being said, they then get into the harder part of their schedule, and they look very mortal. And I don't want to say that they were a bad team. They're definitely not. They, again, Dino Babers, this was a team that was really struggling for years, is got this team at 7-5. That's other than having Sean Tucker, they didn't really have a lot, and they were able to still win. So it's a successful season for Syracuse, and it's something you can build on, and that's all you can ask for. And, they're a middle of the pack ACC team, but given what their expectations were, that's a good thing for them.
1,000%. And I think there's just a lot to build on in terms of getting another really good quarterback, a solid quarterback with a decent running back at the helm. And you're going to have yourself with that defense is something that if they can stay healthy throughout the entire season, they're going to be pretty dangerous. All right, who we got next?
All right, I'm going to go with Louisville.
Okay. They're having a time, aren't they?
Oh my gosh. What so I've made a lot of connections through the writing gigs that I've had.
Sure.
And one of my best friends is a Louisville writer, and
okay.
I can't even I can't respond back with the words that he said to me when I sent it to him, because he had no clue this was coming. It was such a crazy moment for Louisville that you have Scott Satterfield, who I think they wanted gone, and he leveraged. I imagine, I just play out my mind that he was going to get himself fired at the end of next year. I just don't see him. It just didn't seem like he was getting to where he needed to be. Like he was 7-5
He was on his
year.
Quiet quitting vibes.
Quiet
Quiet
quitting, right? And he somehow leveraged that job for another 2 to 3 years at Cincinnati, a better program right now where they're at. Mm-hmm. That is some crazy logic right there. I don't know. Just don't understand it. I don't know what Cincinnati's doing. And Louisville just got a get out of jail free card out of this. They didn't even they didn't have to do anything hard. They just got it handed to them. Now they can go out and get Jeff Brom like they want, and they're going to be happy about it.
They don't have to pay him to sit down and do nothing. They essentially got a man that don't have to go through a horrible season. It's just amazing. Satterfield has the biggest brass cojones of a lot of people, right? This man knew how to keep it close to them. I mean, I'm sure he told 3 people. He had to have told his agent, his wife, and his mama, because ain't nobody else in the world saw this coming. And I just think it's crazy to me when you look at the landscape of what Louisville is. It has a lot of potential. It's not a bad gig. It's not a bad coaching job. But for whatever reason, it just did not vibe with Satterfield for long. And he felt the iron being a little bit hot. And he said, before y'all kick me out, I'm going to go ahead and bow my way. So I don't blame him. I'm not mad at him. In the game with which we know that college athletics to be, go while you still have a paycheck rolling in. And if you can get a bigger one at that, by all means.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, he was able to get himself another 3 years when no one thought he would. And that's smart, and it just shows you how crazy the coaching game could be, the coaching carousel.
1,000%. All right, who we got next?
All right, after Louisville, I have the Duke Blue Devils.
Okay, yes, here we go.
And I want to give you the chance, and I've talked a lot, to brag about your decision to pick Mike Elko when I said it would be Mike Norvell. Go ahead, Candace. Get on your throne and say what you got to say.
I just feel like Mike Elko, with what Duke is known to be about its football program, it's insane how much. I mean, I can't even articulate it properly. 8 games, like y'all don't understand. Winning 8 games at Duke football, that's just literally unheard of. Like, no, everyone wrote them off. The Cutcliffe era in the last 2 to 3 was like terrible. Nobody gave them a chance to even be worth a damn. And you just had all these guys. I literally remember talking to Dwayne Carter. I'll never forget this, looking him dead in his eyes. And I was like, so what should make people nervous or make them believe that y'all are going to be worth something this season? He's like, just wait and see. We don't got to say too much. We understand what's out there and what we're, portrayed to be. Just wait and see. And I was like, you know what? Anybody that's willing to buck up, shoulders back, and say that, you've got someone who's in that, coaching room telling you to have that confidence and giving you that confidence. And he's coming from a place like Texas A&M, and he's re-emphasizing that you can be great. And they believed in it, and they bought into the system, and he kept things rolling. They should have won a couple more than Bad Boys. They tripped over their legs in that Pittsburgh game and North Carolina game. But damn it, if they could, they might have been in the coast of hell. They might have had a better showing than North Carolina did in that Clemson matchup. So honestly, I'd rather have seen that, if I'm being frank. But I love Mike Elko, and I'm on the Mike Elko train. So just so everyone's clear, I don't love Duke. I love Mike Elko. But I do like football, though.
I'm giving you a round of applause, Candace. That is absolutely.
Nobody believed me. Nobody.
You earned it. You said that, and I remember when you came back media days back in July, you were talking about Mike Elko, and I was very much on board because I thought he was a good coach. But you were telling me he's going to do. You said, and I believe the word you used was he's going to do special things at Duke.
I'm just saying, sometimes I'm right. And most of the time I'm wrong, but every now and again, I figure it out.
You take the W's when you can get it.
Exactly. I wish I had bet some money on it, though, and I could have been a rich girl. But betonline.net is your number one source for all of your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. If you want to go already put in some early trends about who you want to win ACC next season, I'm pretty sure you can find it there at betonline.net. If you want to do some Heisman, hopefuls, who's going to take home that trophy, there is absolutely that bet going on right now. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. They're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more, because BetOnline is where the game starts. Rocking and rolling with AJ Black of Locked On Boston College. Do you have a Heisman prediction, given that we didn't see anybody from the ACC there? But, there's a couple of good guys in that bad boy.
So, humble brag, I'm a Heisman voter.
Oh, nice.
Yep. And I can't tell you who I voted for. I think that's illegal.
That's okay.
But my BetOnline pick didn't even make the finals, and I had it, and he got hurt, was Hendon Hooker, and he should be a finalist, and he didn't. I think
he got robbed. I tweeted that he got robbed.
He's incredible, and even though when he missed one game because of that injury, he was
right.
He beat Alabama. He did all. but this isn't Locked On SEC. That's my thought. Caleb Williams, I think, is going to win this running away.
Yeah, I do too. This is definitely a year where you're like, it could be anybody. Like you could convince me, swing me, a couple ways, but I definitely get that. But moving on to ACC, as we discussed, the rankings are still the rankings. We ended with the Duke Blue Devils. Who do we got next?
All right, I'm going to go with Pitt.
Okay.
And I put Duke in front of Pitt, but I'm going to stick with Pitt here. 8-4 when you don't really have much at quarterback is and you just lost Jordan Addison, the best wide receiver in the game, because he got his payday at USC. And watching them get their butt kicked by Utah was amazing. Sorry. I am not a USC fan, and to watch that happen was great. But Pitt, again, Narduzzi is consistent. And going back to Dracovic, like, they've got some momentum here, because I honestly, as a BC person, I think Dracovic's going to be a great fit for them next year, and they're going to be good. So props to Pitt for going 8-4 and really solidifying themselves as just a continuously solid team in the ACC.
100% agree. I know I saw some players tweeting about during the ACC championship game that they should have been there. And I'm like, this is the last time to win a Coastal, because next season is going to be a doozy to try and get that second spot behind Clemson. So, best of luck to everybody.
Yep.
All right, next team.
Well, that brings up a great point, because my number 3 team is UNC. I'm not putting them at number 2.
Yeah.
I think they peaked at the wrong time. I think that was the big thing with them.
Wrong time. Yeah.
Drake May looked every bit, if he continued that last 3 games, he would have been in the Heisman conversation. No doubt he would have been in the Heisman conversation. But he hit that freshman wall, and he hit it hard. But that being said, they went 9-4 with a freshman quarterback, and that you have they had a great wide receiver, Josh Downs, loved watching him play, and a decent defense at times that got better with Chisnick. And so, I don't have them as my number 2, because I think another team that jumped up and is in a prime position for number 2 kind of jumped them, even though they have one less. They have one less ACC win than them.
Okay, I think we got 3 teams left, though, unless you're giving.
Wait a minute, who did I miss?
You miss NC State.
Oh, crap. NC State would have been right below Duke. Sorry, NC State. I totally forgot about you.
No, I'm surprised you forgot, considering that was your team's best win of the season. What you mean? How you forget them?
So I would put them right below Duke. So let's go backwards, because AJ didn't do a good job of writing out. He didn't prep this. He had it all in his head. And as my wife says, you need to do a better job of writing things down, because you forget things. So I'm showing, again, my executive functioning skills by forgetting this. State, they had the highs and lows of the season. The lows, losing to lowly Boston College. what the hell that was. Even as someone who covers a team, I don't know what that was. to then turn that around 2 weeks later and beat UNC.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
With a 4-string quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, 4-string quarterback. Go 8-4 without Devin Leary for most of that, for big chunks of that season. That tells you what you need to know about that program. Now, Devin Leary, 100%. He's entering the transfer portal, and he's going to go get a bag somewhere, I'm sure. He's going to end up at some SEC program that's going to pay him big money to come there.
100%. See how his health does. But yeah. All right, number 2. I'm pretty sure I know, but I want you to tell the people.
All right. I'm going with the Florida State Seminoles.
There we go. They deservedly so.
They, in terms of just forward momentum, this team has it right now. Like, they've got everything going, and they got Jordan Travis coming back. But Jordan Travis himself, let's talk about the year that he had. He was, other than Drake May, probably the best quarterback in the ACC, just consistently from start to finish. And, you know, Norvell has got that program looking like the Florida State teams that we saw with Bobby Bowden. And I am impressed with them. I know they're not the level of Clemson yet, but they're getting there. They're getting there. And especially with the way Clemson's kind of ended the season, that gap is shrinking very, very fast. And Absolutely. As you mentioned, next year, the ACC is going to have just the top 2 teams. We could very well either see Florida State at 1 or 2 playing, you know, it could be Clemson and Florida State for a second time in the ACC championship.
Yeah, I was about to say we're going to have some vintage Seminoles and Tiger matchups that we've been missing for a while, but I'm excited to see that play out potentially in a championship scenario because I think that would be wild and also really good for the conference. All right, number 1. Let's end it on a good one.
All right, they got to go with the ACC champions here. Now, if I was to put them, you know, rankings just based off of expectations versus results, I wouldn't put Clemson at number 1 because when you finish 11-2, when you're the Clemson Tigers, that's a disappointment. But they won the ACC, so it's hard to argue that. But they're starting to show, you know, some chinks in their armor here, and I you know, they end the season. Their offense had moments. You know, they did very well once they got Klubnik in against UNC. My gosh, you have to wonder what, you know. It's one of those things where you're like, why did it take Dabo Swinney that long to figure that out? Yeah. Because their offense looked like a completely different animal with him out there. But
night and day.
Night and day, right? And he this kid looks like he's got that killer instinct. But to be fair, he's a freshman. We said the same thing about DJU that year that Lawrence missed some games because of COVID and some other things. It as we saw with Drake May, it can collapse pretty quick. But the bigger concern with me is that we had to listen to Dabo talk about little old Clemson and how they don't need to do the transfer portal thing. And their team is getting hammered with the transfer portal right now. They're like, I mentioned that Virginia Tech was up there. I think Clemson's either above them or right below them in terms of players in the transfer portal, which for a team that, you know, Dabo always talks about how they're you know, when you're at Clemson, you're here, you know, forever, blah, 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 whatever. To have all those players, and some of them are really good, entering the portal, it's a little disconcerting because now Clemson's going to have to play that game to fill their roster.
Well, I'm wondering from an ACC lens, is it because you're trying to go play in big time games, go to the Big Ten, you're trying to go to the SEC so you can have at least a shot of making college football playoffs, right? And you know there's a bag waiting for you with the Big Ten and SEC teams. So I'm wondering if it has anything to do with that. And honestly, it's a slight to the ACC. Like if we were a little bit better, maybe it would be more enticing for kids to stay and figure it out. I don't know people's stories and all the things, but I'm wondering if that has any, you know, credence to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, with all the money that's going into the Big Ten and SEC, like,
all the TV deals and all these, you know, big wigs and blah, blah, blah. You know, Alabama ain't hurting, Georgia ain't hurting these guys. But I will say, as much as we love transfer portal, everybody ain't going to find a home, and they damn sure not going to find a home in the Big 12, the Big 10 or the SEC. So hate it for y'all. But some of y'all,
some of you going to have to come to Boston College. That's all I'm saying.
There you go. Zay Flowers did it. We'll figure it out. But poof. AJ, it's always a pleasure to have you here on the show. I know I appreciate your rankings each and every week. I know it makes our weekly reads and rankings really fun because the YouTube comments are always the best. So please, y'all leave some comments for AJ as he reminds y'all of where y'all can find him and follow his work.
Yeah, so if you want to give me the best Christmas present ever, go to Locked On and smash that subscribe button. Just hit it. And you get to listen to me, or you don't have to listen to me. I just need the subscribers. So go over to Locked On BC and subscribe. Give me a good Christmas present. That would be a huge.
There you
huge
go.
There
we go. Let's get the road to 1,000. Go ahead.
Yep, I'm getting there.
There you go.
And I'm also the editor of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Sports Network. And on tomorrow's show, I'm probably going to end up talking about BC in basketball to UNH. So it's going to be a great. I mean, Candace, I can't anymore. Like, the football team is terrible. The basketball team's terrible. I don't even know what to do. But I will get through it with my listeners. That's what I'm here for.
There we go. There we go. And they will get through it with you. We always appreciate it. Guys, come back tomorrow. We have Alex Dono as we talk through some superlatives for our ACC football teams, the best, the worst, and maybe the ones who, we thought were going to be great end up being the least, and all of the other superlatives in between. You have to find out on tomorrow's show for Candace Cooper and AJ Black. Until next time.